Good evening. Welcome to our viewers. This is another edition of the Guyana Dialogue, which is brought to you by a group of Guyanese resident in United States, Canada, the UK, the Caribbean, and in Guyana. Today, our topic will be bridging the financial gap, leveraging finance for small and medium-sized enterprise growth and compliance. Um, our This program is also funded by well-known philanthropist Mr. Dave Narayan of Dave Westian Imports. And I'd like to point out that our approach in this program is pro-growth, pro-Guyana, pro-development. We are here to examine existing government policies and programs and to see to what extent it's meeting the needs of people. And if there are any flaws, we will indicate them and point them out to the relevant ministries or authorities back in Guyana. All the members of this panel contribute to service voluntarily. Nobody is being paid. And I just need to clear that. Now we have our guest here, well-known, established business executive and philanthropist, Dr. Komal Singh. But before we get him on, I'd like to make a few observations, but I guess we should get him on first and introduce. The other panelists are Professor Muniram Budu, who is a structural and civil engineer by profession. He is a professor of University at Arizona. He traveled extensively throughout the world looking at structures, etc. And we have our cardiologist here who specializes in installing pacemakers. So if you have a sick heart, you
Hello?
can see him. But if you have a broken heart, you have to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Um, uh, so we'll introduce now our special guest, Dr. Komal Singh, who is the head of Gaico Construction Services and also the president of the Guyana Shipping Association. Well, he wears many hats. He functions in various capacities, and so we are very happy to have him here. Now, welcome, panelists, and Dr. Komal, welcome.
Mhm. Thank you very much.
And
Hello, everyone.
um,
Good night.
well, the good news is that from this week, Guyana will increase its revenue from the oil by almost threefold. Um, just to recap, the only 20 barrels of every 100 produced now will go for operational costs. The other 80 barrels will be split between 50-50 between Exxon and Guyana. So Guyana will get roughly 40 barrels, or as the president said, 39.8 barrels per every 100. So which means that the revenue, if you assume the oil price is about, say, $75 per barrel for the year, on an annual basis, Ghana can get at least about $10 billion. But if the oil price drop below that, that has to be revised back downwards. But the prospects are very good, at least for the short term. So there's a good news for that. And then I just want to point out to the government is pushing, and maybe our guest will talk a little about it because he might be involved in it. The model village idea. It's a similar thing that's happening in New York, where you call neighborhood revitalization programs. there's almost a similar thing, but different concept is being used. But I think the goal is same: the advancement, elevation of the community, better quality of life, etc. So, Mr. Dr. Komal, welcome. And the topic here is bridging the financial gap. But on those two things that I just pointed out, if you want to make any comments on them before I ask you to talk about the various financial intermediaries you have, especially for the disadvantaged people.
Thank you, Doc. Good evening, everyone. Panelists, good evening. Look, you've touched on two very important areas that Guyana is currently experiencing, and one where Exxon have already um, gone into the second phase, where the profit of that 80% can now be split between Guyana and the companies. Um, that means Guyana is now earning a lot more, which is true. But if you would have looked back over the last 5 or 6 years, when a lot of people were asking question, why are we taking loans when we have oil and we're making so much money? Well, the intent then was very clear that based on the projection, government was very, very optimistic that at some point in time, they will be able to generate a lot more income. But instead of having your people and your country at stalemate, waiting until you derive those income, the intent was to try to develop your country as fast as possible using some level of borrowings at competitive rates. And whenever the time is ripe and you start having excess revenue in your system, which is where we are today, you're now going to be in a better position to repay those loans. So I think Guyana is in a pretty decent position right now, and the forward looking right now is one of a very bright future. As it relates to your second point on the model home and villages, look, we all know over the years we have villages throughout the length and breadth of this country that were struggling. Government was struggling to find funding to develop these villages. But now that we're moving and we're the fastest growing economy, we have an unprecedented economic growth and opportunity in the country. Every single Guyanese is expecting to see that their community develop in some shape or form, in one that the kids can run around, they can have play field right within their community. The drains can no longer be clogged with grass and stuff like that. Proper paved roadway. Those are some of the initiative. And if you looked over the last week, President Ali and his team went throughout the length and breadth of this country and not just went there to talk. What was very encouraging, if you looked at it, they went with a plan. They went with a plan where they were able to show the village, this is where you are today, and after we would have developed, this is where we're going to be. So it wasn't just a talk shop. It means government has put a lot of effort into it, and they have planned, and they already have a plan in place to develop those villages, taking into consideration the current condition. So I think those two topics are very important, and I think Guyanese is going to see tremendous benefit. And those are the rippling effect that we talked about. Yes, we're bringing in money, we're getting more money, but how does a community, how does the ordinary man on the street benefit? The model homes and model villages is an example of the rippling effect in the system. Thank you.
All right, let me ask for a quick response from Dr. Ramkisoon and then Professor Boudou.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Tara Singh. Dr. Komal Singh, it's the first time meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for doing all the great work that you're doing in Guyana right now. My question to you this evening, many small businesses have very good ideas and opportunities, but they lack collaterals for financial loans. I know the government has implemented a program where it will be giving out the $3 million to interested individuals who has a plan. But some of these individuals, their ideas are good, and I don't think 3 million is enough. How do you think we should go about addressing this concern?
So, excellent question, Doc. Now, while $3 million may sound small, if you put them together, and government is encouraging, and for the longest while, government and the private sector has been talking a lot about consortiums and joint ventures, bringing more and more businesses and persons together. That is the concept that they're looking here right now. While one person may have a good idea, they may not have all the expertise to implement those ideas and put it into practice. So the intent here right now is to bring more than one individual together so they can bring those $3 million, maybe say 10 person, for example, come together and they will raise $30 million with that grant money. They can now go and start developing some business, maybe shared houses, which is something moving in a very rapid pace right now. It's high revenue earner, it's high price vegetable. So right now around the country and in all the private sector and the BSOs, they're working very closely with a lot of these individuals to bring them together to form consortium. So to answer your question specifically, the consortium is a way of bringing them together so that that 3 million will now multiply by 5, 10, 15, 20 to meet whatever small businesses they're looking at. Bear in mind that the development bank is aiming at small and medium-sized businesses.
Would you define for us what's considered small and medium size in terms of dollars?
The lot of these small businesses, the small manufacturing sector right now, these are people who may have maybe more than $1 million turnover annually. They pretty much fall below that. A lot of these SMEs have suffered over the years. You mentioned it earlier, lack of collateral. Banks were not willing to lend money without proper collateral. So a lot of these small manufacturers, and we have seen them. I mean, in Barbados, when they have crop over, you see all these guys going to Barbados. They have over 60 to 100 small businesses. But because they lack access to capital, they were not able to grow. The product is one that is liked by people in the region. They have capacity to grow, but they don't have the financial capacity to grow the business. So this loan that is coming right now will generally help them in a very significant way to help develop their business. But like I said, they must come together and form consortium in order to capitalize on it. Now it goes a step further. The government is also working with all the commercial bank to offer an additional $10 million loan, all right, to these small businesses and consortium. Just in case the 3 million, if they come together, is not sufficient, they can now go to the commercial bank and access an additional $10 million loan. These 3 million, 10 million means a lot to these small businesses. And when you look at the number of them around the country, they really add values to what's happening in our economy.
And from the government side, in terms of policies, if you want to open up like a cake shop, you have to have certain policies in place, food and hygiene and all these things. From a government standpoint, how are the policies? Is there a relax on the policies? Is it easier to navigate the process?
Accessing stuff right now in terms of permits and license is very easy. That doesn't mean to say that they're going to be compromising on the requirements, especially when it comes to food. All right, food handler certificate is a very critical stuff here right now. They're pushing a lot to have it. So if you're going, for example, if you're going to open up a food business and you're trying to apply for this loan, they will definitely be looking for all those requirements and make sure that you're in compliance with those requirements.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right, Professor Budu.
Yeah, my understanding from you, Tara, that you would like me to address the two points that Komal raised earlier about loans and the model village, right? Is that correct?
Model village and the current
Loans.
position in
The
the
thing
oil
is,
and gas.
what I don't really understand, why is government taking the loan problem in Guyana? That's typical of what government do. They get loan to develop the country, right? I think I'm strange. If in fact in this country most people have loans, right, to do things, right, even to build a house. So I don't see what's a big noise about government having loans. In fact, what is important is the loan to GDP ratio. In Guyana is very low there. Today it's announced that the US, still the most powerful country in the world, has a $40 trillion debt, right? How you reconcile that? So I think the complaint is not worth the paper is written on. The other thing is about the model village. I'm really delighted that they're doing that because it's necessary. And I have raised this issue several times on this program about public involvement. I raised this seriously the Silicon City when there was no public involvement, and I keep doing that. That the public need to be involved uh, with this kind of development. The last 15 years I've been studying smart cities, and in particular why they fail. And one of the reasons why they fail is because of public involvement, right? And these billions of dollars are spent. So I'm glad that the government is actually taking that step to get the public involvement in developing these villages. And I'm also glad that they didn't put smart in there because that's a buzzword now that doesn't mean very much because a lot of these smart villages actually turn out to be very smart at all. Right? So, I'm very, very happy that they are proceeding in that direction. Now, if I go back now to the key points in this session here about is just basically the Guyana Development Bank providing interest-free and collateral-free loans to SMEs, I think they are called, right?
That's right.
Now, from your experience as in the sectors, I know you're involved in construction, logistics, and shipping. Uh, are funding constraints the primary obstacle, or there are issues such as cultural and social factors? For example, I talked to some Guyanese. There's a fear of failure, right? Their preference for stability. They want a government job or something like that. Then there's a lack of training. They don't know what business is about, and they're generally risk averse. Then there's the management capacity and the market access and the technical expertise, right? These to me are equally important. What is your view?
So I agree with you, Doc. While access to fund by itself pose a big issue for those SMEs, technical capacity, the confidence with themselves, understanding how to prepare a business plan, those are still some of the constraints that they're facing. And it's for that reason, the Private Sector Commission over the last 2 years, you would have seen they create a help desk to help small businesses to prepare business plans. And that was a little funding that we also got from IDB to support that help desk. Um, so there are areas that need to be improved. And I think the more we can bring those to light, a lot of these businesses or individual who wants to grow or to get into business, they will start having a platform where they can go and understand what are the risks, what they need to do, how they can access the loan, and what guidance they will need to manage the whole process of doing a business. And so it's a combination of stuff. It's not just access to fund alone. It's a combination of all the things that you talked about just now.
Hmm.
But I'm happy to
So,
say, that but there are opportunities that are opening up within the system to help those businesses to grow. They have the Small Business Bureau also is doing a really good job at this point in time. From where they were to today, they've improved significantly in supporting some of these small businesses on how to develop their business plan to access loan.
yeah, I was in a business incubator program in the U.S. where research ideas are turned into business products. One of the key facets of this program, and that's why it's successful for strategic survival, is corporate matching, sort of matchmaking, and with an experienced entrepreneurs as mentors. We found out that was a key to this because you have to have mentors, especially when you're starting up with a business like this.
Yep.
Now, what role you think your association and other industrial association in Guyana is playing in this? Because you know, people might have the most best business plan, right? This market is always about market, market, and market, right? And you have to have all of those combined together before you get businesses to be successful, especially SMEs.
So you're correct. I mean, look, if we talk about finance management capacity, technical capability, market access, very very important. Even the cultural behavior of our people needs to shift to start looking to a more responsible. If you get into business, you need to be very responsible. You need to be very committed. So those are some of the things that definitely need to be addressed in order for them to really grow. We need to build capacity within the system. Now, if you look at the Private Sector Commission, and I'll use the private sector because it's the umbrella body organization. Under the Private Sector Commission, there's a series of subsector committee under there. And I'll talk about one. Say, let's look at the Agriculture Subcommittee, for example. Under the Agriculture Subcommittee, it's open for every single person to join who wants to be part of that. You don't have to be a member of the private sector to participate in that subcommittee. Under that subcommittee works very closely with SMEs and small businesses, even individual, in guiding them how they can get in line with businesses. And if we talk about the current situation, currently the Agriculture Subcommittee is working with a lot of small businesses to bring them together to form consortium. They're creating an environment where they can have meeting with government, with some of the regulatory agency also. So these persons are getting more and more exposed in what they need to do in order to get into business, in order to access loan, in order to access technical expertise to help manage their business that they want to get into. So these BSOs are really doing a lot right now to help develop the small business within the sector. The Guyana Manufacturing Services Association, by extension, is doing tremendously great job in helping many of these small businesses to grow and develop. All right. Only recently, they had last weekend, they had an event where a lot of small business also have opportunity to showcase their product, to meet, to create more partnership, to create more interaction, to find market also for the product. And that is why every time there is event within the region, Barbados, Grenada, you will see GMSA together with the government working in collaboration to make sure these small businesses participate in those events outside of Guyana. And that's where the marketing comes into play. All right. So there are a whole host of different areas that these small businesses can capitalize on.
Tara?
Okay, we take a break now and then we'll return. Asif, como Okay, we're back. Professor Budu, you had a follow-up question?
Um, I think one of the things that I'm concerned about is say if I were to look at 5 years after they say the launch of this bank, which I believe will be sometime in September, what indicators would you look for to determine whether it will genuinely strengthen Guyana's uh, SME sector and improve national competitiveness?
Look, the development bank should not just be looked at as a lender. And you come on to a very important question. How do we measure the success of the development bank and how much it helped the SMEs? Currently, if you looked at the number of SMEs we have within our economy, it will exceed maybe over 1,000 of these small businesses that around the country. How does we measure the development and the performance? We obviously will need to make sure we have a proper management system through that same development bank that we can use to monitor how successful each one of these borrowers are performing. And I think that's going to be a good benchmark to establish what is happening. There's another way of verifying that also is to see the amount of consortium that has been formed, and not just formed, that is grown to become, major enterprises, major businesses within our economy, and the contribution they make overall to our economy. I think there's stats which I don't have at hand that will tell you exactly what is the the SME's contribution currently to our GDP. We can take all those data, but obviously we need to make sure we monitor it and we manage it in a manner to make sure that we can see at the end of the day how well they're performing and not just giving them loans. If you look at the banking sector over the last 5 or 6 years, the on the non-performing loan is maybe below 1%, which gives us a very good indicator that the businesses are doing well, they're repaying their loan. And that's another way of monitoring also how well the development bank and the SME are growing, utilizing this measure of financing that has been put forward by the government to help develop them.
Of course, you have the balance sheets and the amount of people they employ as well as two additional indicators of growth. But the SME Development Bank, they'll have locations in every region of Guyana. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. All right.
Yeah. And each region will have at least one staff member to guide people along the process. Yeah. Is that correct too?
That's correct, Doc. They're assigning specific person to help manage and guide these persons who are looking to borrow money.
Mm. Now, each person who apply for a loan, since it's interest free and without collateral, I guess they have to prepare or produce a type of a plan or a feasibility study or a business plan. Is that happening now?
And Doc, you touch on a very important point, and that is why the business plan preparation and presentation is very key, because you will now need to utilize that business plan to determine if lending this individual 3 million Guyana dollar, if it will make sense, if they can survive in the business that they want to get into, or if it's going to be a failed venture. So it is important, and that is why the business plan needs to be one that is bankable, is one that makes sense. And that is why guidance on how to develop those business plan
So you have
is very
staff.
important.
Um, the staff there, I learned that this bank might come into online or in operation in next month, September.
They're pushing
Um,
for that right now, yes.
have they, the staff, I understand the board of directors have not yet been appointed, but the staff who are appointed, I guess that they will be subject to training as well, because this,
Obviously, look, they're gonna be a lot more than just a teller. They must be able to analyze those business plan and guide the persons who are applying also. So definitely they will need training also. I'm very sure with that.
well, besides the SME Development Bank, government has been giving out small grants, not loans, grants for small businesses as well, through the Ministry of Tourism, Trade and Commerce. You have any idea or feedback how those grants, the results of those grants,
Well, Dr.
specific
Tata, on
projects?
those, while those were small grants, right? We have seen some of the small tourism product that has been showcasing right around our country is as a result of the support they have received through grant, through support in terms of management, through training. We have seen how successful they are, and we can look at Singh's Farming Canal. I mean, it starts very small, but through the help and the support of Ministry of Tourism, today, it's growing, it's booming, it's very popular. And there are many more like that around our country. So definitely the grants are impacting the small businesses and helping them to grow. And the good news is not just with giving them money alone. It followed with some consultation, some training by these ministry, especially Ministry of Tourism, to help develop these skill set and let the people understand what it requires to maintain that business, what is required for them to build the business also, and not just building and maintain, but also from a financial standpoint, how to manage it from that standpoint.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Sanjay.
Yes, Doc. Um, Dr. Komal Singh, you alluded to this earlier, but this question is, you built Geico from a small local construction company into a major Guyanese enterprise. And I'm sure this was done with good financial planning and dedication and hard work. Do you see yourself as a mentor for small businesses going forward? That's one. And two, we're giving out many loans to small businesses. How do we prevent people having repeated contracts, repeated small business application and contracts going to the same firm? What are the guardrails in place so that this $3 million will only be a one-time thing? It will be repeated. What guardrails are in place? One, for the bank. I know there are no collaterals, but you said they could go to the bank and get up to 10 million. But what collaterals are we looking at if they are already getting only 3 million to start up? I am assuming that many of these individuals don't have much of a collateral. So is there a bridge between the 3 million and access to 10 million, like you discussed earlier?
Okay, so let me answer the first one, the easy one first. Yes, I see myself as a mentor. I grew this business from ground zero to where we are today. It was as a result of a lot of hard work, dedication, sleepless nights. You miss birthdays, you miss graduation, you miss so many things. But if you really want to grow a business, it needs to be one that comes with a lot of dedication. Um, it's also very important, financial management is very key to how successful your business will be. Many businesses fail because of poor financial management, especially if you get a job and you get advance payment. If you don't understand that that advance payment does not belong to you, but it belongs to the project, and you start, spending it here and there, without proper management, you're definitely going to run into problem. So I do see myself as a good mentor. I do a lot of this right now on a daily basis, trying to guide and support people, and I'll continue to do it. Um, as
If
it
I can
relates,
add,
yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
mean to interrupt you, but do you see yourself as a partner with these small businesses?
Oh,
Like
definitely.
taking
Not
on 10 small businesses with you?
well, right now I'm not necessarily a partner, but I'm going to work very closely with them to bring the business together. And we're already starting that right. We have that ongoing. The conversation is ongoing with a set of young people, bringing them together. I'll give them the business idea. And I know for sure that those ideas are going to be successful businesses. We already have three of those in place. That's within 6 months, if they come together with about 5 or 10 persons, within 6 months, they're going to be able to pay off the loan, and they're going to start making money. All right. They just need to be committed. All right. So we work with that on a few people right now, but definitely, I'm going to be very intimately involved in helping them to develop and grow their business to make sure it's successful. Right. As it relates to how we monitor and manage the loan, I'm not sure what mechanism the bank has currently, but I'm very sure that they're not going to be any different from a commercial bank, in that if someone borrows, get that $3 million grant, and the business become failed because of poor management on the part of the individual, I'm sure that they will not be able to qualify going forward easily. They'll have to go through a rigorous process before they're being satisfied to meet the requirements. As it relates to the $10 million loan, because you're going to commercial bank, I don't think that is going to be one without collateral. But I think with the support of the development bank and the recommendation from the bank, there will be some flexibility. How much flexibility, I would not be able to say that. That's something we need to hear from the commercial bank on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Professor Buru.
Now, Well, I want to make some comments here on this consortium, and then I invite your response. It seems to be that's an idea that's been pushed a lot now in Guyana, right? Because what I found when I was involved with this incubator program is that the successful businesses were actually based on the individual drive and capacity to do hard work.
Mhm.
Once you have more than one and you have several other people in there, most of those businesses that start up didn't get very far. The only ones that work well if the others provide a product for that individual company. For example, if you want to produce pepper sauce, you see, and somebody else there is producing the bottle, right? And another one is producing the label, right? Then those three can work together, right? But if you were to got an idea just producing a pepper sauce, it's not going to work with all three of them because they have to have their own individual product. And I don't want to get into politics. I'm not a politician, but I know when I was in Guyana, we had the Warren Cooperative, right? And I remember one of the politicians say that one person who doesn't know joined five others who also doesn't know on form of property. I hope we don't get the same thing with the consortium. Your comment.
So you're correct, I mean, consortium is a broad-based word used right now to bring people together and businesses together.
Mhm.
But what is important, you need to make sure that you have like-minded individual. You have individuals who are there who will add value to that consortium. You have individuals together who are committed to making sure that that business is successful. If you don't have those basic fundamental stuff, definitely the consortium will fall apart.
Mhm.
Take my company for example. Over the years, we have had many companies come want to work with us, in the construction sector. But if you're not adding anything different from what we're doing, it don't make sense. But we have got into many consortium with businesses that is outside of what we're doing because they come to the table with some value. They either bring experience, they bring market, and those are very critical part of any consortium. You must come to the table with value. You must add value to the consortium. And if you add value to the consortium, then you will have commitment in that consortium. So if you're not committed, if you're not adding value, then definitely you will just be another number into that
Mhm.
consortium or that joint venture.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, if you were advising the government today, not 5 years from now, what is the one thing it must get right in the design and implementation of this bank, right? To ensure that it's a catalyst for more SME type of success, right? And we've discussed here a moment ago all the pitfalls that can occur in these things there. So you got to get it right because people in Ghana, because of culture, they tend to be disappointed if something fails. In the US, if you look at most companies that are successful, they fail many times over,
Oh yeah.
right? Right? And then they become successful. That's a culture that's been set up in places like the US, right? Failure is not an embarrassment. Failure is
Yep.
something you learn from,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And even the banks sometimes don't take that failure into serious consideration, right? They look at what your business plan, what your marketing plan. And by the way, what I also found here is that the business plan may sound all nice, you see, but what is government? I remember when I was in National Science Foundation, they make sure that you develop also a separate marketing plan, you see, to show what market share you're going to get within a certain time period and what your revenue is going to be, right? So one of the measures that they have, the National Science Foundation, was you have to generate this amount of revenue within a period of time. 3 years was a period of time, right? So I want you to go back. I know I say a lot of things there, but go back to that question that I asked you. What will you advise about?
So look, for me right now, and I hope they will have it. I'm very confident they will because putting together the development bank, it's not an easy thing, especially when you're saying to your population, I'm going to be giving you $3 million and I don't need any collateral. All right. So I'm very, very confident that the government will have a very robust system in place, first of all, to evaluate those proposals, to have proper follow up and monitoring system in place, and also to have a feedback session if the business fail for some reason or they're not performing as per plan. There must be a mechanism in place that you can review those proposals against the current or the actuals to understand where is it that you have went wrong, first of all, in terms of analyzing that proposal. Secondly, analyzing the management aspect of it, also analyzing the marketing side of it to see exactly where you went wrong that is causing this business to not achieving the target you have set. Like any other business, you invest money and you look for an ROI. If you're looking for 3, 4 years to have your return on your investment, and you set your plan, your budget is set in such a way that every month your expectation is to achieve certain target, or every quarter, or every on an annual basis. And if you don't, you need to step back. So for me, I'm hoping that there is a system or a mechanism in place to review these, not wait until a year to review the performance of these businesses as you're giving them money, but you review their performance, especially the newcomers, on a month by month basis to understand what they're doing. Are they sticking to plan? Are they meeting expectation? Are they fall short? And then if they fall short, what is it that you need to do to help them to catch up? All right. So for me, I'll say government needs to have such a system in place to help monitor and track the performance of these people from day one, and not at the end of a year or end of a 3 year period. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you see the bank introducing special software to help these applicants for loans from the bank?
So definitely utilizing AI is going to become very critical in terms of monitoring because of the amount of people you're talking about here. All right. Technology is going to become very critical in helping you to analyze and track and monitor the performance of these grants that are given out to individuals. All right.
Hmm. The, okay, let me just. I know you're heavily involved in the construction sector. Do you see any of these applicants for small and medium size moving into the construction sector?
Definitely. I could tell you right now, there's many small businesses. The construction sector is booming, and it is an environment where people can get in and start getting involved in businesses and start making some money. It's hard work, but if you're dedicated, definitely you can grow in that environment. Um, while it's a $3 million grant, we have seen around our country right now many small businesses move from a block making yard to somebody start taking on small contracts to build roads, to build drainage within their community. And that's a good part of this whole model home and model village that President Ali is rolling out around right now. These model villages are going to create a whole host of economic opportunity for the people within that community. All right. Many of them who may have wanted to take on some of these small jobs cannot afford to buy, say, for example, a ransom that costs about 5 or 600,000 or $1 million. By accessing that money, they can now go and buy one of that small ransom and some other small tools and start getting involved. So there is a whole host of opportunity. It's not restricting them to agriculture, to food processing, to construction. They have now a wide opportunity to extend themselves to get involved in the different sector, utilizing the money that is being given by the development bank.
Um, like big contractors like yourself, do you see the need where some of these SMEs could work as a subcontractor?
So we do, and many companies right now, I could say that without any hesitation. In our system right now, we have about 10 small subcontractors. These are small guys who are now trying to develop themselves. over the last 10 years, we have grown over 4 or 5 small subcontractors. They came on, some of these guys came on just as laborer, as skilled worker. And over the years, they've showed the company that they want to work on themselves. And we help mold them. And today, some of them are tendering on their own jobs. All right. So yes, the construction sector is employing a lot of these small subcontractors to get certain jobs done. You're giving them small stuff to monitor how well they can manage funding, how well they can manage people, how well they can manage a project. And you look at how they perform and you start giving them more and more as the day go by.
I saw a picture on a report coming out from Lenora where they had people who were initially submitting the applications for this SME grants, and the turnout was very, very good. So it would seem the initial reaction to this is very encouraging. You aware of the report I'm talking about?
I'm not aware with that report, but I can tell you the amount of phone calls that I get personally, the amount of activity we see within some of the BSOs right now, it is getting lot of attention. A lot of people, I think, is going to benefit from it. Will be going after it with the intention to help grow themselves in some business, some shape or form.
Mm,
I can tell you
exactly.
there is an individual who is selling food close to one of my location. And only today, she yesterday she stopped me, but I was busy, so I couldn't talk to her about it. So this afternoon I stopped. I tried to find out exactly what she wants. You know what she asked me? How can she get the $3 million grant to grow her business, to
Mhm.
change, to improve on the looks of her shop that she's selling food with. So it is going down to the ordinary person. The ordinary person is seeing that there is a benefit in accessing that money.
So if you're invited to give a little talk to a group of SMEs who are applying for this grant, what will be some of your key messages you'll hand on to them?
My message to anybody who wants to get into business, and it will be the same to them. They first of all need to have a plan, be willing to work to achieve that plan. They must be willing to be very dedicated to what they want also. And they must also be willing to put themselves out there in that if they don't have the expertise, they must be willing to go and learn, educate themselves, get the requisite training to understand what they need to get done to make that business a success. It's not just about getting the $3 million in your hands. It's about how you will manage that money, how you will manage the business you want to get into. All right. So definitely my advice to anyone right now would be for them to be willing to be dedicated and commit to whatever they want to do by collecting that money and getting involved in business. Business is good, but business also calls for a lot of dedication. You guys will know with that.
So the business plan will also include the prospect for marketing your product.
That's correct. It's important.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people in this country in the past have actually moved. We take farmers, for example. A lot of people move away from farming in the past because you're growing your produce, but there was not proper market for it. All right. Now, because of the demand and because of the economy booming right now, sometimes you go to the market and you can hardly find vegetable. You can hardly see tomatoes in the market. You see a lot of imported tomatoes. That should not happen, right? But it's also showed that the market is really booming. The demand for goods and services is extremely high. So there is a great demand also for more people to get involved in businesses in all the sectors.
Uh, Dr. Sanjay?
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Para. Dr. Singh, on a back end, in terms of taxation, do these people who are benefiting from the small business loans, how are they being taxed? Is there a secondary benefit from less taxes at the end?
Well, the taxation system right now, somebody, if you get into certain types of business right now, if you get in, say for example, recently the government for anything that deals with agriculture and agro-processing. If you get involved in that right now, government have offered some incentive by not, you're not going to be paying withholding tax on that product when you sell it. In the tourism sector, in some place outside in the rural area also, um, governments have tax incentive in place for some of those stuff. Outside of those incentive area, anybody who get into business otherwise would pretty much falls within the regular tax bracket, right?
I see. And do you know of any insurances? Like these small businesses, can the owners insure their business in case there's a mishap?
The only business that I know is I think a year ago they launched something for the rice farmers, some insurance for the rice farmers. Cash crop farmers, as far as I'm aware right now, there's no insurance coverage for it. But it's a good question.
Mhm.
Thanks.
All right, Professor Buru, your last
Mhm.
comments and question.
I think this development bank is an excellent idea, but I think that the success would depend on close collaboration between the government, the commercial banks, and private sector organizations.
Correct.
They have to play a key role in creating the ecosystem, as some which we discussed today. So where we're not only accessing finance, but also have mentoring or mentorship, if you wish, markets. I keep talking about market, technical and social support. And the reason I say social support because of the cultural heritage we have, that how we look at failure, right? And business failure sometimes must occur for you to be successful. So that's my last comment here.
Um, Dr. Komal, I know you were very much involved in this aside from the bank, of the MV Barima rescue efforts. You want to offer a little comment on that, where we are now in terms of getting a company to salvage the vessel?
Well, all I can comment here, right, is what is in the public domain. The government have went out to a public expression of interest to see companies who are willing to salvage it to express their interest, and they're going to evaluate that to see which company have the competence to do that salvage. There's many talk about the salvage and how easy or how hard it is, but as a local company who did quite a bit of salvaging, near shore salvaging, um, where that one is right now, it's considered a deep water salvage because it's in excess of 10-meter draft. So the EOI closed last Friday. I think President Ali made a public audit. They're evaluating, and they're going to make public soon. Whatever whoever is qualified to be moved to the next stage of actual tender or submitting a price tender to salvage that vessel. All right.
Mm. All right, thank you. Now we reach the program time, so I'll ask you to make your closing remarks.
All right. What I'm going to encourage our entire audience who's looking here today, and our Guyanese brothers and sisters, like Doc said earlier, failure is not a crime. Every single one of us who in business have some sort of failure. If you ask me, I could list a number of them that I went through over my last 30 years of business. But failure is another way of giving you the courage for you to look back and see where you went wrong, and you come back stronger than where you were. So don't see failure as a disadvantage. See failure as a motivation, as an example for where you had error. You now pay to learn, and I'm sure going forward you're going to be very successful. So don't be scared of accessing these grants. Work with the private sector, work with GMSA, work with all the business support organization within your community. They are very open right now to work with you to help build those business plans, to guide you in the direction of what a successful plan will look like or which sector you should get into to help get involved in what is happening in Guyana. Guyana is going through an unprecedented growth at this point in time. There's opportunities for every single one of us from all level, all walks of life. Let us capitalize on it. Let us grow this country so that all of our families can live a better life tomorrow. Thank you.
Is finally is labor shortage still a problem in the construction sector as well
That,
as other sectors?
That's correct. We still have a labor shortage, and not just labor, skilled labor also. And that's why, we've seen government is pushing more aggressively right now to help train many of our Guyanese who are unskilled, to bring them up into skilled training so that they can fit some of the demand that is growing into the sector. So we do have a labor shortage, but we also have a skill set issues also locally.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Komal. Thank you very much, Professor Budu, Dr.
You,
Sanjay. And next week, our guest will be the Minister of Housing, who will talk about empowering people with a piece of land or a house. That's one of the most powerful tools of empowerment. So he's going to say how far they have gone with that. So that's next Thursday. So
Doc, you need to give him 2 hours, Doc. You have a
um,
lot to tell you.
yeah, I know, but the audience. We gotta look at the audience too. The audience don't like too long. So don't go off. We want to
Okay.
chat a bit when he goes offline. We are still live now.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.